baseball.
We have two things about plans. The NFL plans to maintain April draft schedule despite subcommittee pushback, blah, blah. MLB, Passon just tweeted out this whole thing about all the things the MLB is trying to do. Start the season June or July. And they're trying to do like 100, as close to 162 games as they can still. Seems like they're still a bit in, what are the phases of grief? They're still like, they're in that phase where they're bargaining. They're bargaining.
Snake phase.
Bargain phase.
That's what you did with your hands.
They're bargaining because it seems crazy. They say the players are willing to do up to 2 doubleheaders a week. That seems crazy. We had Kipnis on yesterday. That will be on an episode of Talking Baseball in the future. And what he laid down seemed kind of cool. He was like, he said, I think 1 doubleheader a week is going to happen.
Yeah.
Should be fun for players.
Feels like there's, however these negotiations are going down, I feel like 2 doubleheaders a week is the start and 1 doubleheader a week is the finish.
Yeah. Then Passon goes on to say a lot of stuff, Jake. About, it was interesting. So it was like they're probably going to, a lot of people think they're going to start at the All-Star break.
Few people think that.
Yeah. Well, he said majority of something.
I don't think he said majority. I think he said the people he talked to.
Multiple officials.
Multiple officials, which again could mean a lot of things, but we do like and trust Jeff.
Yeah, specifically around the All-Star game in Los Angeles as a potential powerful way to kick off the season. That's kind of where I was saying, just do it there and they're saying they're not going to need a full month of spring training. That's obvious to me. They're going to shorten it. Yeah. People already think that the full 6 weeks of spring training is too long.
And that's where I think we're seeing like a lot of things in this. I think we can already see what's going to be negotiated down. And I think from what we've heard even in this article, things are still pleasant. And I think everyone's we're going to have to figure it out the best way. Like this isn't negotiations. This is figuring it out. And I think that's good. And I think it's going to stay that way because if you are the owner or whoever it is that gets caught trying to negotiate during this time, you're the bad guy.
They're definitely negotiating right now.
I don't think so. Like, I think it's figuring it out. I think if you get caught trying to negotiate or trying to get something of power as one of the owners in this, it's going to be full egg on your face, like we just did with the NCAA and Trevor Lawrence. Like I don't think
it's the owners. I think the Players Association is negotiating.
I think it's figuring it out. I don't think they're trying to beat each other like they will in the CBA. I think right now it's still trying to figure it out. And I think things that will come down, like we said, the 2 doubleheaders a week, it's tough to picture that. It would be a dream and a nightmare for us. It would be pretty wild. Like that spring training, we've already heard this before, and they've done this in the past. It's going to be 2 to 3 weeks. They've done that during the strike years. They've done that during the other times that they've had a shortened spring training. So it's going to be 2 to 3 weeks. I think 4 weeks is going to be out of the question. I think they'd rather add a roster spot or do what they're going to do than just do another 4 weeks of not playing games that matter. Like, that's just going to piss everyone off.
And then there's a whole thing about neutral sites. And they might even play regular season games at neutral sites.
Yeah.
Like regular season games in spring training, which would be, I don't know. My thing is for players, a lot of those spring training facilities suck.
Yeah.
So they may push back a little bit and like, well, if we're going to be nowhere, why don't we be nowhere where we want to be?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the whole thing gets into travel a little bit, and it gets into, like you're saying, I mean, are they going to be down in Florida? Do the guys want to be down there? Arizona? You know, because like what you're saying is right, and it would be cool if they were doing stuff at Yankee Stadium, but you know, are the other teams going to be able to travel there? That's the whole point of spring training, is you have everyone right there. So I don't know. I mean, there's still a lot to figure out. I think I think you and I probably stand on this. We're happy that this article is out now, because there was a chance in our heads that this article wasn't going to be out for another 4 weeks, and we'd be like, you know, what are you doing, baseball?
Yeah, I think the more and more they're just going to start hinting that it's the All-Star game break is when it starts.
Well, when you say the All-Star break is when it starts, do you have them playing an All-Star game, or like why?
No,
why does that become the date?
Because it's an easy halfway point of the season and start the schedule from there.
But it's kind of not, right? Like if they're talking about changing the schedule and everything, then why is it it's like you're making an arbitrary date matter for no reason.
I haven't seen them talk about changing the schedule.
Well, you just said they're trying to get in 162 games.
That's bullshit.
So there you go. That's what I would like to say in this article. If they're going to say, "Hey, let's do the All-Star break and we're still going to play $162," none of that matters.
This is damage control. This is sprinkling the idea of not 162 games and starting at the All-Star break with a shortened season. Because if you think they're going to play 162 games starting in July or late June, that's crazy. I mean, It's just like have a brain. So what they're doing.
So you think there's zero chance of that?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think what they're doing is slowly sprinkling these little things. Like they just like, all right, it's going to be 2 weeks. Okay, now it's going to be June. Okay, now it's going to be this. We're trying and we're hoping for 162. And then eventually they'll say, this is what it is. We tried and we hoped, like we told you.
Yeah, I think a little bit of that's fair, but I also think there's a lot of money on the table here. And a lot of other stuff going in with service time and everything else and all the issues that are around this.
Because this also says that they might still try to have fans unless the government and the health board say no. And it's like, they're going to say no.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Right. Well, we still don't know when. And that's the ever glooming thing over this, because you're absolutely right. It could be, I mean, this could be really good news or really bad news to whoever's reading it. I mean, there's people that think baseball very much will not be played this year. There's people that think it could be back Memorial Day weekend. So it'll be interesting to see when it happens. I do think you're right. I think they're laying a little bit of groundwork. And it's a little bit of showing face that we're going to try our hardest and do our best. Then, yeah, you're right. The answer probably lies a little before that. But, dude, there's a lot of money on the table.
Yeah, it's not really up to them, though. It's like up to the government and the health concerns and all of that. Like the MLB can't just say, we're playing. They can't right now. Right.
And that's what's going to be interesting, and that's going to be the next step of this process. In 2 weeks, are there going to be the no more, what is it? Live in nannies, live in your own home.
Shelter in place.
Shelter in place. Are those going to be lifted? Is it going to be 2 more weeks of that? Is it going to be 4 more weeks of that? Is it going to be 6? Once those are lifted, what can MLB do? Are they going to allow these teams to get back together? So, you're right. A lot of it's out of their hands, but, who knows when the government stuff lifts? It could be 2 weeks. It could be 4 weeks. It could be 4 months.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Like, I think the Olympics thing has kind of gotten into people's heads now, but the bigger thing around that is
international.
Well, it's international, and the people can't train. Like, Michael Phelps went on Scott SVP Sports Center last night and was like, you don't get how cyclical these athletes are. They're wired completely different. And his biggest thing, like, Michael Phelps basically grabbed the camera and said, like, these people need to go and talk to mental health professionals, because you spend your whole life training for this. You are wired to perform on your event's date on, if it's kicked off July 24th, you are setting your body up to be perfect for the July 30th race. And that these people, A, Olympic people kind of aren't mentally right anyways, and B, with this bomb, like, these people need to talk to folks.
I think that goes for a lot of athletes and a lot of everybody. Like, 30% of the country is getting laid off.
Right.
So I think mental health should probably be an essential business right now. Get your hotlines going, get your phone calls and all that stuff. The other interesting thing before we move on from sports is that they mentioned a transaction freeze. So, like, when everything resumes, like, no signings, no nothing. We're just playing out the season. That's kind of cool. Trade deadline is also interesting. Where do they make the trade deadline?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they're going to have to incorporate that stuff at some point, but yeah, it'll be interesting to track.
Yeah. Yeah, I read this passing article as, like, laying the groundwork for, so it's not a big bam. This is what it is.
We'll see. There's a lot of good stuff in that passing article, too.
You think so?
I mean, they're saying 162. Like, that could be at face value to you. There could be 30 owners looking to get paid, which they are, that are going to try to squeeze in as many games as possible. And hey, maybe you're right. Maybe that 162 is complete bullshit. But I mean, you're also ignoring the parts of the article you want to ignore. They're talking about playing games in November at neutral sites and shit like that. Shit you don't necessarily like, but they're really talking about that stuff.
It's still April and May are 2 months.
Right.
And they're saying late June. So now we have 2.5 months of games that they're going to cram into 1 extra month of playing in October. I'm not a math guy.
Not a math guy.
It doesn't add up. You have like 60, 75 days that you're going to try and cram into 30 days.
A couple double headers along the way.
Still wouldn't.
They're trying to figure it out.
Still wouldn't get you there. That would be, Again,
math.
I won't do the math, but that math doesn't add up.
Not doing the math.